Happily be
Okay, we're live.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. It is House Energy and Digital Infrastructure, and it is Wednesday, February 11th. And we're going to be taking some good testimony today from the Vermont Coalition for Disability Rights. We'll just quickly introduce ourselves, and then we're eager to you. So my name is Kathleen James, and I am from the Bennington 4 District.
I'm Scott Cabell from St. Johnsbury.
Richard Bailey from Lamoille 2.
Chris Morrow, Wyndham, Bennington. Michael, Southwest Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Derek Torrey, Washington 2.
Laura Sibilia, Wyndham 2.
All right, and in the room.
Brenda Siegel from End Homelessness Vermont.
Great, and we're going to be hearing from you next, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the record.
I am Kils Osham. I'm a resident of Waterbury, and I have lived in Vermont for about 15 years, mostly in Chittenden County, so I'm new to Washington County, but really adore it.
Awesome. So did you all have specific bills or topics you wanted to discuss with us today?
Something that I would like to talk about is about how the utility bills, because I know that that's relevant to your work, how they are not serving disability, and how particularly how so I'm disabled, and I am on the border of poverty, and that 15-day cutoff is very, very strict. Like the day that you are over by like 1 day, they send out that notice, and you have 15 days from that day of lateness to sorry, it's really like frustrating because it's just really frustrating. So you have 15 days, and if you don't, then you get your electricity cut off, and that can compromise the entire systems that where people have to that grow accustomed to doing. We have to manage money very closely, like sometimes down to the very cent. And so that $15 day cutoff is tremendously hard, because sometimes it gets to the 15 days. And then you're like, okay, well, either I'm paying this, or either I'm paying electricity or I'm paying for heating. And I know that some places have that heating, like heating is the electricity, but sometimes it's not. So trying to decide between two utilities is tremendously hard.
Can I ask you a question? So, I just want to understand how this works. So if you get behind on your electric bill, how long is it until you would get a disconnect notice from the utility?
So you don't technically get the discount notice until like they send it in the mail, but from that day that you are late, you have 15 days.
The day of choice.
Yeah. It used to, my understanding, and let me know if I'm wrong, but like in the old days, you would have like a 15-day grace window. But because of technology and the way the technology runs now, you don't have that grace period anymore. It's from that day.
So the day, let's say your bill is due today. Today's what, the 11th?
Yeah.
11.
So let's say you get a bill for last month, and the due date is February 11th, and if you don't pay that bill by 15 days, which is February 26th, then you're disconnected automatically. And they as a person who lives in poverty, that is really, really hard. And trying to because I have an entire system where if everything lines up right away, I can just
pay everything when things happen.
Mhm.
But because of the way that the calendar operates, that only happens like maybe 3 times a year.
Mhm.
And so it's like trying to manage which bill I pay every time, which I know is very common for, most everybody. But when you have to like decide between two things, especially like during the winter, it's very, very hard.
Does the utility send you another notice?
Yeah, so
telling
they
you
will
that you're
send.
about to get disconnected?
Yeah, so they will send me. So what happens, what I understand from my side, is that they immediately when you go into like default, so like day after.
When you miss a payment.
Yeah, when I miss a payment, then they automatically the system will send it
notice.
out, and then it doesn't say that I from the day that I got the notice or the day that the notice was sent out. It's from the day after
After your payment.
after payment was due.
So you might get the notice a couple of days before you're cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that, and for me, I'm tech savvy, so I can I know I have the app, I know what I know what the system is, but like for older generation,
Right.
that's not possible.
Yeah, some people might still rely
Right.
on
Yeah.
mail, on actual physical mail.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least at my house, I don't get the mail every day anymore.
Yeah.
It comes every few days.
Yeah. And so it creates a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Who's your utility?
Say again?
Who's your electric utility?
Green Mountain Power.
Well, we're going to be hearing from them today. Because a lot of us we're all
Yeah.
learning about the process.
Yeah.
And we were this bill is really our
I would-
way of
I mean,
starting.
I don't need to
conversation.
invite myself to things, but I would really like to hear what they have to say.
You're welcome to be in the room.
Okay.
2:15.
So I just want to make sure that I understand, because I also have Green Mountain Power.
Yeah.
And I've also gotten behind on my bill.
Okay.
And so I want to make sure I understand. And when you said you had the app, that's what I was like, oh, must be Green Mountain Power.
Yeah.
So is it from the date that you get a shut off notice, you have 15 days?
No, I believe I would have to I'd have to look, but I'm like pretty confident that it's from the day after that
The bill is.
that you get it starts the whole process to get it shut off.
Okay, so I would just say for the committee, if one day after the bill is due, you have 15 days before you shut off, that sounds like a problem we should probably address.
Yeah. So, and we do have Jim.
Yeah, we can
coming in this
install our
afternoon.
questions.
So to talk about both bills actually today. So the
Yeah.
disconnect bill and a different bill. So
So ideally, if it had been like it's still within that 15-day grace period that they used to have for like when everything was analog, like pre-digital, then they would have it would still be able people would still be able to function within that within the gray area. I feel like even like a 10-day or a 7-day, something to really make sure that people have time to navigate.
Curious to know if you've always been able to kind of manage it enough to stave off disconnection, or if you've been disconnected. I was curious to know what that experience was like. Like, how were you able to get back up and running? And
Yeah, so I've been able to
juggle it.
I've been able to juggle it, but I've known people who don't and or who are unable to, and it's really hard because when you get the notice, and again I'd have to look, but when you get the notice, they say if you do this, then when it turns back on, it'll be turned on within a certain amount of period. And I can't remember what that period is, but to me, that period, especially during the winter, is too long. I think it's like 6 or 8 hours. And for somebody who is vulnerable, maybe in a wheelchair or has like a greater impairment than I do, that could potentially be life-saving or life risk, like, yeah.
Have they sent you anything about the GMP program to help?
Yeah,
Well,
so they did, and I am now currently on it. But even and that's one of the things I wanted to actually focus on, and I got sidetracked, which is fine because it's really important. Is that the bill that they've put me on is 150, and I am still not able to sometimes pay that. And I understand the way that they do it. It's kind of algorithmic. And it's so that in the winter it's a little bit better. It's a little more manageable. But if it's not manageable, right? Like, I recognized, even as a person in poverty, I have privilege. And somebody who doesn't have as much privilege as I do, and isn't able to afford that. And I would like to see, ideally, I would like to see, like, my absolute dream, and I know it's not possible, but I would like to see a program for disabled people that is like a more manageable monthly. Because the other thing that happens with Green Mountain Power is every quarter they look at your electricity usage, and they say, okay, based on your usage, this is your, for this next term, that's how much you will be paying. But for disabled people, that means that they're the things that they depend on, like, I don't know, like medical drips, or I don't know, some of the medical devices that that they use are being counted towards that. And if they're being counted towards that, then, and also they're put on this program, then it becomes that much more difficult. And so what I would want to see is like a flat rate for disabled people, and like based on income. Because I know that people who are on disability still are like vastly under compensated for living services. And I know that you all, this wonderful committee, can't address that issue, but if you can address the other life-saving things and make sure that the devices that the disabled people use are not like counted, because the whole it's very upsetting, because I've known disabled people who like have to have life-saving stuff, and that electricity is then put on their bill, and then they have to pay that bill. And then sometimes when, like, okay, so to give you an analogy, if you unplugged your refrigerator, all your food would be unfrozen, or unrefrigerated, right? And so for disabled people, if we unplug our services, same thing happens. But we are required by society to have electricity. And I don't know about the laws in Vermont, but I know that there are states where if like you don't have electricity for a certain amount of time, you get penalized. And I know that that's going into a different aspect, but yeah, so I would just like to see like an income-based program for disabled people and $0 for the most impacted, which are people who are on SSI, because I've met people who are on SSI and it is institution. Like it is, it is the cruelest dehumanization that you can ever experience. It is back to slavery, in my opinion. And not to like bring slavery into that, but it is at that level. And I think that you all have the power and the decisions to be able to influence that, and using that power responsibly needs to be used.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure, maybe it's been updated already, but I had another witness on our.
I think that maybe he's not coming and Kilsa is.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
can you make sure our committee assistant has your name so that our agenda
absolutely.
reflects your presence here for perpetuity,
Yeah.
for posterity?
Thank you.
You bet.
Also, I would like to say that Black and brown people, we all know because we live in Vermont, they're the ones that are most harmed by having a disability, and they should also be considered in this realm, which is why I was trying to bring slavery into it. And I recognize that that did not go the way that I planned.
We spend a lot of time pontificating on YouTube, so we feel you. Did you have a question?
Yes. Could I ask you a couple of questions here?
Yeah.
So, you said that the utility has your electric bill at 150.
Yeah.
Were you, significantly behind when they proposed you a monthly payment plan and 12 months to catch up?
Yeah, so they gave me a payment plan, but it was, and again, I'd have to check, but it was 150 when they proposed that plan. And then also they put me on the payment plan, the quarterly thing. So then my utility was still about 300.
So, a typical plan may be that you, are going to make up the arrearage over 12 months, and that other bills, were going to be paid when they came due. So you're going to pay the current month.
On the same bill that the past payment, or sorry, okay, so on the past payment, the reoccurring bill. And then I am now remembering because I'm flustered. I'm sorry. Usually I have these conversations more calmly, but it was 50. It's 50, but I have heard where it has been more than 50, and it's on. Okay.
Well, yeah, we're kind of looking for facts, not what was heard, but.
We'll be here for
We're
Green
gonna
Mountain
be
Power
able to
later, and we can ask them about their policies.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, I mean, I was just reviewing this rule 3.30 that I'm just gonna put coming up later.
And
I would just,
yeah.
I just read I read something quickly about the 12 monthly payments, and I didn't get the.
Yeah,
Anyway.
sure. And also I want to mention that just because a law is enacted doesn't mean that it's necessarily always followed. And that's kind of like, something that, like $50, or even if it was $100 in my financial status is incredibly difficult, because again, it's down to that 10 cents. And often where I am, I usually run about $100 or $200 over every single month. So an extra $50 is
A big deal.
a big deal.
So we really appreciate you being here to share with us your experience. It takes courage. So thank you for sharing that with us. And like I said, we've got testimony later. We can certainly ask the utilities about their policies and
Yeah.
get clear on what their policies are, but
And I'm also open to like any future conversations or questions, because this is my area of study. And, yeah, thank you.
Hi, for the record, I'm Brenda Siegel, the Executive Director of End Homelessness Vermont. And I might not look up a lot because I am losing my eyesight, which is part of the reason I'm here to talk to you. The windows are a little hard for me. So I wanted to actually just, this is not all that I have to say, but I wanted to just piggyback on what you were saying. So I have experienced poverty for most of my adult life. And I had gotten out of poverty, and this past fall, my pay was delayed due to federal things. And it was delayed by 4 months. So I fell behind in literally every part of my existence because I'm just above the poverty line. And I did have my electricity shut off. And it was fairly rapid. The person came to shut it off. They said that I had until 3 o'clock, and they shut it off at 2:58. They did call, I will say it was Green Mountain Power as well, and they did call and apologize profusely. That was actually what they did. I figured out a solution. I was very privileged to be able to figure out a solution. But my electric bill is well over $150 a month. And so I just wanted to kind of back up what was being said. I don't know about the 15 days. That has not been necessarily my experience. But if you get on one of those payment plans, if you miss even one payment or you're a day late on even one payment, then you get kicked off the payment plan. So that becomes no longer an option. And so that's very challenging for people in poverty. And for myself, what I did come here to talk to you about was two things: the clients that we work with and my own experience of losing my eyesight. It's actually a visual processing disorder, but without going deeply into it. I have to have an enormous amount of lights in my house, specialty lights that are fortunately offered to me by the Vermont Division of the Blind for the blind, but it doesn't pay my electric bill. And so those lights a lot of lights are on often in my house. I can't, if there's not lights in other rooms, then I can't process what's coming in. So I can't have like the lights off in other rooms around me and not in the room I'm in. And as many of you probably see me walking around here in sunglasses, sometimes I can't process anything that's coming into my eyes. It's not actually my eyes. It's a little confusing, so I'm having to learn how to be someone who is losing my eyesight in a position that's actually a high functioning position in a world that is not designed for someone who is experiencing vision loss. And so I wasn't going to bring that in, but I really do want to just back up some of this, that I think people with disabilities are not written in to our policies and rights around electric bills and other utility bills, in part because it's not taking into account how much more expensive those things are for people with disabilities because of what they have to run. And for our clients, that includes people on oxygen, people with electric powered wheelchairs, people who have insulin dependent diabetes. It's literally life or death if they lose their power. And so, and when we always tell our clients rent first, no matter what. However, when you're telling someone rent first, no matter what, who's on oxygen and their power is going to get shut off, then you're telling them to choose between living outside and plugging in somewhere else or living inside without the life-saving ability to breathe.
Brittany, have you had experience? We've been learning a little bit about the disconnections and how they work and the rules that Rep. Howland brought up. Have you had experience with the doctor's note?
You know what? I have not been offered that. So one of the problems that I've experienced when I've personally experienced getting behind is that I don't think all the options are offered to me. So when I've also had plenty of snafus because I can't see my bill or because I think that it said something that it doesn't say because of the visual processing. And so that is, that will sometimes cause me to be behind or pay the wrong amount. And there's not a lot I can do about that because I'm just learning how to experience this. And so I have not even been, I didn't even know that was an option. And I should, because I work with people for whom that would be something that is. So I can't give you a lot of answers about it.
I was just curious because that's something we've been learning about. I mean, this is for me anyway, a new area of learning.
Yeah.
And so we've been learning about the doctor's note and how it can be used to, basically stave off disconnection and whether that could be sort of extended indefinitely in certain circumstances. So instead of having to go back for it and back for it and back for it, am I describing this right, Rep. Torrey?
Yeah.
It's her bill. So, and Rep. Morrow too, you could get, more of sort of like an indefinite doctor's note if you have like a chronic condition. But it's in our bill. That's not currently the
right. So I have not heard a lot about that, but I will be paying more attention to this bill now because I do think that it will make a big difference for that doing this right, or writing disability into every bill is a priority of ours at End Homelessness Vermont. And so this is a place where I think that there could be a difference made. The other thing that I did really want to talk about is I guess you have oversight over. I just clarified that right before I came in, but oversight over the state website and over
we do.
Yes. So it is not accessible. It isn't accessible. There's a couple of pieces of this. People experiencing homelessness who live with disabilities absolutely don't have access. So everything that they need to know, whether or not the shelters are open, all those things are on the website, and they're hard for anyone to find. And then they're extremely hard to find if you don't have internet access. And they also, there's no clear, I've even requested before, like I can't see the documents that you're giving to all the other providers. And can you please just send me the documents? And they just send me the link. And I'm like, no, could you actually please just send me the documents so that I can see them? And they just send me the link. And I am saying it's because I can't see. I'm asking for that accommodation, and quite frankly, it is not a wonderful experience to have to repetitively ask for an accommodation, and then to be denied it when it's literally the only way that you can do your job, which in my case, that's what's going on. But then for our clients, we're in the middle of a big study, a multi-year study, and phase 2 of the study, the report is in draft right now, it's being reviewed. But I can tell you that 9.5% of the people that we interviewed could not read or write, and that everyone that answered that question was a lifelong Vermonter. And when we make things not clear of how there could be an audio version, and then in preparation for this testimony, I went onto the state website, and if you scroll down, there's a part that says what they're supposed to do for disability. I don't know how I found it, but it was there. And I asked my staff to help me make sure I was reading it correctly, because it had a bunch of things, like there needs to be a video option or an audio option, and none of those things are there for most. I was surprised to find this out because none of those things are there. So for people who are deaf, having a way, especially deaf-blind, and people who are blind, people who are not able to read or write, people who are living with significant medical conditions and can't process all of that on their own. These are all places where we need to be following I think a policy that may already exist.
You're talking about just Vermont.gov.
Vermont.gov, I went to the legislative
And then I go
website,
down
hard
to
for me, but
accessibility. Okay, sorry.
This is my question as well.
Yeah.
Legislative website as well.
Legislative website is hard for me as well. Yep. It's a little better. The legislative website for me, I'm going to I know I'm going to committees. I know which committees I'm going to, but I do often have to ask other people, what is happening in these, because I can't follow all of them. When I'm in the building, and I'm in appropriations, I have asked the committee assistants before for the, on paper spreadsheet of the budget. And I'm told I can't get that because I'm not a legislator. And I say, well, it's because I can't see it on the computer. And they say, you basically has to go through Agatha. And that should not be what's happening. It should be that you can just ask the committee assistant, I'm not able to see this, and you should be able to get it. And an accommodation, a reasonable accommodation by definition it has to be unreasonable what you're asking for it to be denied. And so I think that there is and this is not, what I think is failing is that people don't understand what a disability is, and they don't understand what a reasonable accommodation is. And there is not adequate training. And part of that is that disability is not written into all of our legislation. And the more we talk about it, the more we ensure that it is there and everything, the more that we will have the ability to then have all of you understand what a reasonable accommodation is. Because I can assuredly tell you that while I knew fundamentally this before I started my work, we work primarily with people living with disabilities. We answer 3,000 calls a year. We have 600 clients who we help on an ongoing basis, and over 300 now who we help with we don't help all of them every single day, but who we help with renewing their voucher, with filling out their housing applications, with service navigation, with everything. And the level that they can be successful when they have the right support is, and the amount of times we've been told about these clients that they're refusing services, when the reality is that they cannot access the services that are being offered to them. And when we are there to support them through that, that's available. Then we actually are able to break through those barriers. And the same is happening for me. The Vermont Division for the Blind is actually excellent. It's the best service I've ever interacted with in my whole existence. So, and I've interacted with a lot of services, both on a professional and personal level. But it is excellent because they are listening to what I need. So I'm saying, I really can't make it around the State House, and I'm struggling when I can't see. I don't know what to do. When there's a lot of people in the building, I feel like I'm going to crash into people. They're saying, okay, let's get a mobility expert to help you figure out how to navigate that and learn how to listen for doorways and listen for people in ways that maybe is not what I'm used to from my life. But in most services and most of our infrastructure, our technological infrastructure, we're telling people what they need, not listening. And I think that it would help a lot whenever there's any bill in front of the committee to bring people in, both disability experts and people with lived experience, to say, how would this impact you and how can we write disability into this bill? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Victoria.
Would you suggest VCIL, Vermont Center for Independent Living? Who are the who would be
the organizations that address disability in our state the most significantly are Vermont Center for Independent Living, Disability Rights Vermont, the DD Coalition, the Developmental Disability Coalition, the Human Rights Commission, and then Homelessness Vermont. We are the organizations that do it. And I think that we have this situation where we're creating basically a taxonomy or hierarchy of who gets access to services in our, or not just services, access to just, to this career that I have, that I am very fortunate. I already very much knew how to do because I'm able to maneuver my way around. I know a lot of people, but if I walked into this completely blind and both in my knowledge and in my vision, then I don't know how I would, I know people do, but it is amazing to me that people can figure out a way around, because just experiencing it myself has been quite eye-opening. There's a lot of analogies coming out there around vision. I like to make jokes about it, so I've actually told people don't bring it up. I'd rather you made it some weird joke. So,
Right.
Well, I was just thinking about also, we've been talking with the Secretary of State's office. Well, and I've been talking with them about improving their website around a particular thing, around energy codes and compliance and all that. And also the residential contractor registry. And one of the things that they told me is they're being required to update all of their websites, all the various pages on their websites, for accessibility.
Mhm.
And that's a process that they're in the middle of. And so I guess I wonder whether that's sort of happening generally. I don't know what the status is of Vermont.gov or the other.
I can tell you that the state website, at least DCF's website, where I spend most of my time, has not changed much of anything in terms of that. That's way behind, and accessibility. It shouldn't even. There's a lot of reasons why they don't want to do these things, but it shouldn't even be a question. That the website is not accessible is. Mine isn't accessible either. Actually, to be clear, there is a cost to that.
Yeah.
But it's for a government website that it doesn't seem like that should be inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, what we hear and hear about the needs for IT generally in state government are enormous.
Yeah.
And often decades behind where they should be. And so the costs are also enormous. So that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to figure out how to pay for things and also how to get government offices to be successful at implementing IT improvements, which is another challenge. Even if we throw money at it, having it be successful is another challenge. So it's a huge problem.
It is.
And I think we all recognize it, and we would all love to make it better. And I
think that what I'm going to use the same advice that I give my clients, which is that I think when we look at the whole problem, the giant problem of whenever they're experiencing personally or homelessness or infrastructure or any of the things, it becomes overwhelming and we freeze. Right. And what I always say to my clients is, let's just do the first thing. Like, let's just make sure that you have a shelter. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about whether or not choices for care is an option, or then we'll talk about how we're going to make sure that you can access the services you need. And I think that there's, I think you all, those of you that know me know that I am a go big or go home approach kind of person. However, I still think you have to start somewhere. And if we're freezing because if we're freezing because we don't know how to handle the whole problem or how far we've gotten behind, especially on disability rights in Vermont, we've gotten very far behind. If we're freezing, then we're not making any progress. So we might as well figure out, what can we do first? The first thing we can do is make sure that it says that they're supposed to have the right colors on the website so that people can see. The first thing you do is make sure there's that. The second thing you do is make sure that there's videos. And then the same thing with the electric companies, with our electric bills or other utility bills. Same exact thing.
Yep, one more and then we're done.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a really basic question, demonstrating ignorance. When we talk about disability, we have a lot of DEI policies. Can you help me understand why disability needs are not included in diversity, equity, and inclusion requirements and policies?
Yeah, so
Question.
disability is not, it's not that it's not supposed to be included. It is a protected class, but there is major pushback when you try to get a disability need met. And so it it seems like it should be enough to say, okay, these are already our laws. We already have accessibility laws. We already have the ADA and Vermont Disability Common Benefits Clause. We already have these things. But it appears to me from my work in the last few years that the thing we need to do is name it explicitly until we get it right in our policies. Because that it seems like we include it is a lot more unattractive to there are certain, we have decided which disability, people with substance use disorder, which is also a disability, like we've decided that those are things that we're comfortable discriminating against people, and it is a little bit invisible even if you see it in your face, because people, when they're discriminated against, end up isolated away from other folks. I don't know if that really answered your question, but I think the answer is it should be, but it is not being included.
Thank you.
Okay.
So can I ask you a question? Going through the painful process of trying to get your client some help, when you finally get there to DCF or wherever it is you're trying to get help for your client, do they get the help?
Do you mean, do they accept it? Or do you mean, do they actually get help when they get there?
Well, you finally get through
Yeah.
the maze,
Yeah.
get there, and I said, I have this client that has this need, and I'm finally in the system. Is that client getting services?
So our clients all get services because they all work with us, and we're very adept at making sure that there's service coordination. But they also have us to navigate it for them. So so we know that there's people out there who aren't working with Homelessness Vermont who have to navigate themselves and are not able to access the services, if that's what you mean. They're all very open to getting services and support, and will welcome anything that you're there that you can offer. And I think part of that is that you just listen, unless it's like institutionalization, which is against the Olmsted decision and not best practice.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
I was gonna just offer, like, to answer that question privately or like for the entire committee after, because I definitely agree, but like DEI is something that I specifically study. And so basically disability is the it's the invisible community within DEI, because we talk about racism in DEI, we talk about class, and we talk about all of these other things, but disability is often left out. And that's why, like, with the acronym, you'll often see DEIAB, because it's diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging. And what I say is, if you do the first 4 letters first, then the belonging is already included in all of that.
It's really helpful. It's very, very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I did not know that. Yeah. So you taught me a new thing today.
Well, I think we're gonna teach each other a bunch of things.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you. I was like, oh my gosh, this used to be House General.
I know,
Right?
right?
Yeah, I think so.
We
Education, right? I think I've been in here in multiple versions of this. Oh, maybe House General was upstairs. This was education. Yeah.
I
You
also
can go up live.
had a question for you.